Canine Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Grubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists. It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Welcome, everybody, to the Canine Detection Collaborative. I'm Robin Grubel, and I am here with Stacy Barnett.
Hello.
And Crystal Wing.
Howdy.
And we are in our typical fashion of doing interviews. Usually the episode after we do the interview, we talk about reflections, things that we've learned, aha moments, or, well, why didn't I think of that moments that we came across in the interview. And I was lucky enough to be the wizard behind the curtain for this.
Emphasis on wizard.
Wizard.
I was going to emphasize the curtain, so.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. During this episode, because usually what we do for our guests is we have two people interview, and then the third person kind of sits in the background and starts asking questions and all sorts of fun things. So I was that person. And you guys have just heard her how. And one of the things that I find fascinating in how she trains her tracking is she makes her dogs love articles. They do a lot of article work. And it provides lots of opportunity for reinforcement on a track. And I think we forget, especially when we're in the teaching mode of our dogs, of how we miss all of the little opportunities to provide reinforcement for the dogs. And if I think about tracking, and especially the stylized tracking that she's doing, and even some of my trailing folks for search and rescue, we tend to be lumpy McLumpersons.
Oh, yeah.
And put all of this stuff. No, we need to do a 100-yard track or a 200-yard track with 5 turns and, all of this other stuff. And really just, instead of dissecting it down and saying, you know what, I want a 25 step or 25-foot track with one stellar turn. And then you're done.
It actually reminded me of a Facebook post I saw today. And actually it was a written Facebook post. And I think the person who wrote it originally was Gail McCarthy, and absolutely loved what she wrote. A lot of it had to do, she was talking about how you want to make sure that you're not rushing in a competition, that you have to, make sure that you have quality, that your searching is high quality and everything. And, the gist of it came down to is that a lot of what we do now, again, I'm kind of taking this on the detection side versus the tracking side, but the same thing holds, right? Good, this is all about dog training. So regardless if your dogs are kind of naturally good at something, like maybe they're natural trackers or maybe they're natural at searching, right? At the core of this is still dog training, and I think that's kind of what Emily was talking about a little bit. Was like, how do you get something really amazing? And there's a lot of dog training involved, right? There's a lot of breaking it down into small pieces and slicing it into small pieces, and it's about criteria. And that's kind of what I took from that. And then I was just like this really cool Facebook post I saw today. So that was really kind of all those pieces come together,
Yeah. Right after we did the interview, she posted on her personal page a track of them working on basically a plowed field, and watching her dog dissect the track and follow that odor and make those decisions. It was actually inspiring to watch. It almost made me want to do tracking. Almost.
I'm actually very interested in starting tracking again. It's been a while since I've done it, but but this time I'm actually going to have an article indication, because the last time I tracked, oh my gosh, it was with Judd, and he got his ASCA TD. We went through ASCA. Yeah, his article indication was he threw the glove at me.
Mom, you're dumb. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Here it is. Like, and we passed, but this time I actually want to have a real article indication versus a toss a glove at your mother.
So you only know how geeky and how awesome I was feeling about the whole thing, being that it's IGP, and I kind of like that sport a little. I don't know if you knew that.
Just a little.
It's just something I think is kind of okay sometimes. And the fact that we got to interview somebody that I only briefly got to meet, and I just found her to be absolutely amazing. I love her humbleness. I love her the don't get wrapped around the axle. I had never heard that before.
Yeah.
And so I may have used it 5 or 10 times since then.
Yeah.
But I love her attitude.
Yeah. When you come across those little sayings where you're like, oh, I can use that tidbit because it gets across to my students, or it's the I'm getting wrapped around the axle for absolutely no apparent reason.
Yeah. Oh,
I like it better than some of your cat expressions that you've used in the past. Just not meaning to call you out.
Well, you know what I found myself using actually for a couple of people while I was out in the Pacific Northwest teaching was actually I told a couple of people that maybe they should try a couple shots of tequila before training.
Okay.
chill out the trainer just a little bit. It might be okay.
My problem is I always take two different sayings and I morph them together.
Yeah. Tends to be bad. Yeah.
I know your takeaway, Stacey, last time was you like how dogs adapt to our games. And I think that goes back to Robin's initial statement about how we have to break it down. And obedience tracking is really what IGP is about. And I really liked how she said it was equivalent in her eyes to luring the heel. And I've had some time to think about, because a lot of times we record these like right after. And because we've had a few days, I kind of like this few days to think about, honestly.
Yes. Yes. Well, because they give us a lot to digest.
Oh, yeah. I've really enjoyed that. But thinking about it as that lured heel, I thought, okay, in obedience, we have to be really good observers of the dog. And that's why I like using circle tracks. And if you're not familiar with circle tracks, it's I learned that from Shade as well. I know she mentioned Shade in her episode because they're friends and we're friends as well. And it's just going like basically in a 40-step is the way that I've interpreted it. It's been it was like 2012 when I learned about it. Okay, so things have probably changed and they've adapted it. So don't think I'm like, but it was like a 40-pace circle and it was food in every step. And the dog is off leash and you just let the dog go out and do it. You just stand there. And what I loved about that concept was it gave me a chance to truly watch the dog. Yeah. And I had a problem with my first dog that he would lie to me. He was so in love with the track. And you would see this a lot of times with dogs that have had some compulsion put behind them because they didn't want to be wrong. So they would keep going.
They would adopt the position of tracking.
Yeah. And they would just stay down and go. And they'd just straight up lie to you. And I found that my old dog Quinn would do that. And I couldn't quite figure out why. And so I like how she talked about it being this observation point. So the circle tracks for me helped me really understand what it looked like when he was perfectly on the track in such a subtle little body shift and a tail shift of when he wasn't on the track. And just like obedience, it's all about observation at every point. That's why we record it so much. That's why we are constantly watching our videos back, is really understanding our dogs and reading our dogs. And tracking, I feel like it's just like next level in reading your dog. And, well, excuse this, but you only have your dog's butthole to watch.
You've got the back end. Yeah,
you're 30 feet away.
Right.
So you have limited view.
we have gone down a new levels of.
I mean, so you get the tail and you can kind of see their nose between their legs.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you've got the line and you've got the pressure on the line.
Yeah. And you've got to keep that just right.
Right.
And so I'm using a botcher harness now. I really like that with Radish. We've started tracking and I've taken some of the previous episode we talked about some article indication ideas and I'm using that with Yukon and that's working lovely. So I've really enjoyed these kind of tracking conversations we've been having lately. But it goes back to that really being a good observer of the dog And I think about it so much more as an obedience exercise now after talking to Emily. Like I knew it before. Like I made the joke, do you think that it's a natural way of tracking? And
No.
it's not.
No.
And again, I like that Stacy's takeaway was how our dogs adapt to our kind of silly games. And they learn the style that we want in order to get the consequence. And so for some, the consequence is a punishment if they do it wrong. And then for, Emily and us, we use it as the consequence is the reward for when they do it right. And that's when you said the articles are so rewarding. And for some dogs, the tracking is so rewarding.
Right.
And I also liked how she said that just like in obedience, we use an interrupter. So an interrupter could simply be stopping with the leash. She'll use smaller articles to teach slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thoughtful things we do in obedience. If they're going too fast, you can also include a turn. It's just thinking like obedience. So it's really a very similar thing. It's not some magical, mystical. I have a lot of people say, can you come out and teach us tracking? Can you help get us started? It's all the same concepts. Good dog training is good dog training.
Exactly.
Good dog training. Yeah.
And it was interesting that listening to her talk, and then just a couple of days ago, the Scandinavian Working Dog Institute, who I'm a huge fan of, put out a video on Facebook of off-leash tracking of one of their dogs on hard surface. It was on asphalt or concrete of some nature. And to watch this dog off leash, basically doing footstep for footstep type of stuff, and then come across an article and going through their master canine trainer program really switched my, that was just like this whole ahas all over the place, but it really switched my philosophy on articles for tracking and even trailing is that, and even for the search and rescue trailing, because for us, clues, humans are just a big clue when they're missing or lost. They're just a big clue. And finding the clues that are on the way, all the little pieces that may have been dropped, hence articles, are also very important. And if you create a dog who really loves articles, and then you teach them that the track is the way to find the next article, it really helps tighten up tracking. So yes, you're not, it's a little bit closer to tracking than it is to trailing. It's not the obedience style tracking that Emily or the IGP people do, but it's still some of those same concepts. And then Emily's comment of this is, the dogs are adapting to how we want to play the silly game. I started thinking about the whole conversation we had with Joe Rosie on the selective drives. And how we're changing, no, you have to heel in this really silly parade style way, or no, you can't adjust your grip when you're a hunting dog and you've got a duck. So it's just, and all of that's built on those little tiny slices.
I know the first time I went to the search and rescue group, they asked me what discipline I was interested in. And, the dog finding things.
What kind of disciplines are there?
Yeah. Like I'll make sure that they do it. What I'll give them a report card. I don't know. So Robin, do you want to kind of touch on the difference between tracking and trailing?
In the traditional sense, tracking, and I think that this also applies for IGP sport tracking, is usually defined as very footstep by footstep. There's a combination of not only human odor, but also crushed vegetation or disturbed earth or all those sorts of things. When you start getting into the trailing aspect, the dogs are not as true to track. So they will it's a little bit more of a nose up behavior. The dogs are not necessarily got their nose buried on the ground or sniffing the ground as hard, and they will move off the track. I've seen tracks, people claim to do trails really, really far away from a track. And I don't claim to know what dogs can and cannot do, but I know that if you're too far off the track, you actually miss some turns and it turns into online area search.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of a little bit of a spectrum. I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like a spectrum between kind of large area search, trailing to tracking. It's almost kind of, is that, am I interpreting that correctly?
Yes. And some trailing people are probably going to send me hate mail, and it's okay.
Sorry, I didn't want to set you up there. Not trying to set you up.
And it's okay because I think we, as in search and rescue people, could aspire to do much better on asking our dogs to be more truer to track. But now keep in mind, most search and rescue people aren't called until 8 to 12 to 14, 24 hours after the person has gone missing. Odor scent can move quite a bit. So, the IGP, the competition level tracking, you have some very specific rules on when the dogs can and cannot be doing things. And you also have a huge spike at about 45 minutes that it then drops off for your footstep for footstep tracking.
Right. And then you have the AKC style tracking, which is different.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think we would probably be better served, instead of talking about let's do tracking, trailing, or on leash area search. I'm doing competition level tracking, or I am doing, fresh footstep tracking, apprehension tracking, or I'm doing trailing that operates at the 6, 8, 12-hour range. And we're not even going to get into the argument about how long a dog can actually trail, because that's so not my bandwidth. And we'll leave that for other people in the industry to have those debates.
And I know that Emily mentioned too that she wasn't comfortable talking about what exactly the dog is finding. So reading, how do you pronounce it? Syrotuck? Because I know it's Syrotuck.
Mm-hmm.
And reading that book was really eye-opening for me. And doing it from the search and rescue world, that book totally helped me out in my IGP tracking. It just made everything make so much more sense. And I always love taking the information from one area and then transferring it to another. So like taking agility, for instance, and taking gun dog stuff. It's incredible to me how much it all crosses over and helps every other area.
So explain about this book before you go much further. What are you talking about?
It's called Scent and the Scenting Dog.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it's by William Syrotuck, who is
I just didn't recognize the last name. Okay, yeah, I've got that book. That's a great book.
It is like the book.
That's fabulous.
And it's been through a couple different reprints. It's all sorts of things. I think it was one of the first books. I think I'm on version number 2, because the first book I bought, I think I spilled a lot of coffee on it. And so I have the newer version, the reprint. So it's got a little bit slightly different cover. We'll put a link to that in the show notes that you can buy it off of Amazon.
Yeah, fabulous book.
Right. And now it talks about the skin rafts and some of the other stuff, with some new research has come out, I believe, for human scenting, is that it's more about, because the dogs can differentiate us down to DNA type of stuff.
That's incredible.
Yeah, which is amazing.
And that's where I was curious what your thoughts on that of what the dog is actually smelling or looking for. Like, what is it? Like, do you have that information?
I don't know. I'm not a dog.
Well, I get that. But based on the research, oh my gosh. I bit my tongue. I almost called you something.
I have 41 of them running around outside my house. They are donkeys. Yes.
I'm like, you don't have 41
donkeys.
I was thinking more of like the sucker. I was going to call you a dum-dum, like
it starts with
sucker.
an A and with an S.
Yes.
Little root beer dum-dum.
When I talk to the students about this, I still show the cornflake skin raft option because it is a great visual. But from my understanding, and if somebody knows differently, please send us a note or tag us in something so that we can update our information. is that they're microbial passengers that are hanging out on every single one of those little skin rafts.
Oh,
And
gross.
yeah, it's gross. and they're eating it. And so they have to burp and they have to poop and they, do the whole thing. And so they can the dogs are using that pheromone stuff, vapor clouds that are coming off. That's what they're tracking. And
I think I'm just up another level of germaphobe right now.
Well, and so
I am so creeped out by that.
The research that I have is that you're giving off something like
you may have some microbial passengers. Me, no, I kicked them off.
50 million skin rafts a day. Most of the dust in your house, unless you live on a farm.
No. We don't go to dust. We're not talking about dust.
Dead skin.
No dust.
So that's your please.
Nope. Unless you teach ceramics and
yes, unless you live on a farm where you teach ceramics, and then you're kind of get a pass.
So Stacy, what's your excuse?
That's all dog hair, man. That's not dust. That's dog hair. I got lots of dog hair. I've got way more dog hair than I have dust.
I just always find it fascinating because, like, when we're tracking in the winter, I'm literally all you can see on me are my eyes. Everything else is covered. And I'm thinking, well, how many skin rafts am I actually putting off at this time? And the difference in the temperature and the humidity. So I'm always so fascinated by it. So that the Sayertuck book was really helpful for me to understand that for sure.
In my head, I go to the old like the prisoners trying to escape out of the swamp, and then they go through the water, and then the bloodhounds go. They find them
and some of that has to do with that the dogs learn to make leaps in the odor track, and then they'll figure it out, just like the foxhounds who are hunting foxes, or my dogs who are out hunting a rabbit. If the rabbit takes a really sharp turn, they'll self-correct. Some of it's a cross between air scenting and tracking and, all of those sorts of things. The dogs have a lot of tools in their toolbox. And like Emily said, this is an obedience style track that you're looking for very stylistic type of stuff. And so you are trying to, and I think about how exacting the rules are. You want stylistic head bobs. You want the dog can only have like a step and a half to correct for a turn.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's basically one head movement over and that's all you get.
Right. And it's
how do the judges know though? How do they keep track? That's my question.
Keep track. Well, okay. So the turn is a complete 90-degree turn.
Okay.
So if the dog goes a body length past the turn, when they make a right, now they have to come back and then they go straight at that point.
Okay. But how do they actually know that the dog's nose are on the actual footsteps?
How did the judge?
You actually see their head goes back and forth like a sewing machine, like a zigzag stitch.
Wow.
That's what I always think about when I'm watching the track. It's always back and forth and back and forth. And when Quinn does it, he's a rather fast tracker. And the judge that we had for his level, I guess it was his FPR3, which is just a tracking title because he, at that point, he was already retired his body and such. And we just did tracking for fun because, well, he loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, he's so fast. He's going to miss all of his corners. And I could hear her talking to the track layer. And he hits it like rails. I mean, it was just back and forth and back and forth. And then, so if I make a turn to the right, I plant my right foot straight. And then I put my left foot so that my left heel is touching my right toe. And I'm now going to the right.
Okay.
So that's all that they get. So when they go to put their head in that left footprint, it's missing. So because that footprint is missing, then they bring their head further back to the right. And then that's when they hit the turn to the right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can visualize that or not. So that's why
I can. I'm sitting here doing like geometry in my head, but yeah.
So if you have a fast tracking dog, they're more likely that they're going to miss because the instant they miss that step, they've already gone past and they're going to reach for the next step to the right, which is totally missing. And now they're going to guess. So, or if the wind is being gentle, and you actually have wind to your advantage, then the wind might hit them and go, oh, it's definitely to the right. One of the natural things that our dogs tend to do is if the track goes to the right, they tend to look left first. I've noticed this with all of our club dogs. When they get to that right turn, they put their nose to the right and we're like, yes, they've got it. And then all of a sudden they turn left and they sniff out where it's definitely not. And then they commit to going right.
Well, that's just like searching.
Exactly. And it's a very natural thing for them to do. And it's just part of that learning process. So when she talked about, and this is what I loved when she talked about how she builds confidence, and she builds confidence by setting up those baby steps. Like I love how she said to teach them to go over a road, she'll put an article in the middle of the road,
right?
So that will draw them into the road. It's like
opportunity for reinforcement.
Yeah. And the irrigation ditches and, just breaking it down. And so with the turn, she also talked about, well, then you don't want to just give a kindergartner a high school test, so instead of just immediately turning right, well, let's make it a gentle, subtle turn to the right. And I think about it, well, I like to, I always like to do like a ball field shape. I think about like the shape where the infield meets the outfield. So I like that kind of big arcing curve.
I'm sitting here still trying to do the geometry because I'm like, when was the last time I actually saw a baseball field? Infield, outfield. You're Miss Softball.
I like serpentines for tracks, especially to start because all corner is a tight serpentine.
Yeah, but I think sometimes people exaggerate the serpentines too fast. And
Agreed.
That's why I like to go more to like that big arcing curve first.
Gotcha.
So that it's not just a straight, but it's this big arcing curve, and then you can start to arc the other way, but give yourself some space to just let them recognize that it's not just right, left, right, left. And when you watch somebody walk even and they're walking in a curve and watch the distance of their footprints, that inside step starts to become closer. The outside step starts to stretch out and give them a chance to get that rhythm, get a feel for that first before you start all of a sudden going the other direction or turning it straight.
Wow. There's a lot to it. I mean, listening to you, most of my experiences on the searching side of it. And it's just what you were talked about where the dogs, they're going to go to the right and the dogs naturally go to the left. It's so interesting because when we see our dogs actually search, that's so common. Right. So the dogs when they're ear scenting. I'm just trying to parallel.
Well, they have to determine direct. I mean, this is dogs.
Yeah. They're trying to determine parallel. Right. Yeah. Yeah. The direction. So they go into it. And I've seen dogs actually get almost all the way to source, then spin off, go out, catch the edge, and then come back in again. So I guess it's kind of a little bit.
It's exactly the same. Yeah. And I didn't recognize that until doing search and rescue and learning about the odor and scent movement. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, you guys, this is why our dogs I was so excited. You should have heard my club. Okay, you're a little ate up. I'm like, I know.
I thought it was fascinating that Emily was like, I set my tracks up irregardless of wind.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had a small brain cramp at that moment. I'll admit it, because I went through the apprenticing to set up tons and tons and tons of certification tracks for search and rescue. And that was always that you don't place them in a U, you don't make it, all of these rules.
That's testing, right?
That's testing.
Yeah, not
training.
Right. Not training. Yeah.
And we tend to have the whole, kind of off-leash area search stuff, not true tracking.
Yeah.
And so it gives her an opportunity. And because her dog loves articles, he's looking or searching for those articles on that track because he knows he's going to get reinforced for staying on the track. But the whole concept that she is now doing it irregardless of wind also tells me as to how much time she has spent reinforcing that dog for having its nose deep in a track.
Yeah.
And that goes back to my first club that I worked with. You kind of take some of the stuff that you learned the first time as gospel, and what you learn, you're just like, oh, everybody does it that way. Yeah, I mean, when she said liver, my initial thought was, oh, dried liver, because so many people in the IGP world, it's either, I just lost the name of it. It's the little food. It's the yellow bag, Biljack. It's either Biljack, and you'll watch people sit there for hours rolling up their little balls of Biljack, or it's the dried liver, and you're out there for hours cutting up your dried liver. Like, that's kind of the go-to treats for the tracks. If you can even put treats on the tracks, you're in the South, you can't. So then it's all about the articles.
Yeah.
And it's all about being creative trainers.
Yeah. Because ants.
Yeah.
Right. I've seen people down south actually freeze
Yes.
their food if they're going to put food on the track. Because it just kind of, that way they have a little bit more time before the ants get to it.
This would be another reason to not live where things want to kill you.
Well, there's that too. So I had actually wanted to start Brava in tracking last winter, but then I decided not to do it because I was going to be in Florida and
fire ants.
Like, I don't want to deal with them.
Right? Yeah, I mean, even the ants here. Poor Checkmate. He was going on his track, and it was he was liberally baited because I was like, you know what? He was coming back from hip surgery. I just wanted to do something fun. Yeah, I went out. I mean, I didn't even really let it age, like 15 minutes, and said, "Okay, buddy, just go eat some food." Basically, every single piece had just piles of ants on it here in Missouri. And he went to eat the first piece and he was like, shake his head. I'm like, okay, that was weird. Eats the next, shake his head. And he's like, no, thanks, not eating the food.
Oh, how punishing for the poor boy.
Exactly. So of course I was like, you know what? We're just going to stop this track because that's no fun. You can't eat the food that's there. It's almost like a tease. Oh, I'd go back to my thought before. Sorry. I might have forgot my ADHD meds today. What we were saying is my previous club, we do go to that, what we've always known as, is what we do. And that's what's the truth. And like there's that monkey experiment, that it keeps doing that. You know what I'm talking about? No.
Same thing over and over again is insanity. That's like the Albert Einstein
like where
thing.
There's the monkeys in the room. There's a thing of bananas up at the top. And the first monkey jumps up to get the bananas. And they spray the monkey with the hose, but they don't spray that monkey. They spray all the other monkeys. Oh. So of course they're like, no, don't go get the banana. So if a monkey jumps on the rope, all the other monkeys pull him off and beat him up. And what they slowly do is they take out each monkey from the room until eventually there are no original monkeys from that first experiment. And they don't know really why they do it. But anytime a monkey jumps on the rope, they pull it down and beat it up. And so it's just, we always do the same thing because that's what we know.
Well, until we know better, when we know better, we do better.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Of course, here I am with, I'm like, I didn't know the experiment. So every time you're talking about monkeys and you're talking about, but I'm thinking how many monkeys jumping on the bed, but.
So we use the liver and those are kind of known things. We use the wind because that's always known things. It was always, you do puppy boxes first, then you do it so the wind is at your back and then you jump backwards out of your thing and then you make sure the dog's not going to, and so like all of these, this is how you do it. And it was just fun for her to tickle my brain on that and go, you know what? The wind is just information. Like, you know what? You're right. Yeah. And the food is information and the speed on the track, it's all just information. And I really, really like what she said about the training isn't always pretty. Yeah. And to me, that was growth mindset right there. Because if your training isn't pretty, it means you're pushing your limits. Yeah. It doesn't mean that they're failing. And even with her failure, it's just mistakes we're learning from. And so it's just all growth mindset.
One of the hardest things I've ever done was the puppy group.
Yeah. Sorry.
Go. I can hold mine. You go.
I just want to repeat that because I feel like we just gloss over that about training should not always be pretty.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I feel like we just went a complete flyby, like Tom Cruise, right?
Yes.
And that's just really, I know we want to get to the puppy group in just a second, but
that reiterates your point though, because the puppy group, part of my puppy group and watching all the puppies grow up, one, I was not always beautifully dressed. And two, I didn't edit the videos.
Yeah.
And so the people in the puppy group got to see all of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And very rarely, it's interesting because, I'll start in the group. If I've edited it, I actually tell people this is a marketing video. That's one of the things that I think with social media and all of the stuff people have to realize when you're watching people put videos out on Facebook.
They're not putting out the stuff that sucks.
Right. They're not
Yeah.
putting out the really crappy training videos
Yeah.
that are actually the part where you teach the dog or you're training the dog. They put out the videos of here's the end super success.
Yeah.
And, or, going through and really taking that into consideration. So it took a lot for me to kind of be like, yeah, well, okay, I'm recording this. I'm going to post it in the puppy group. And hopefully nobody laughs at the fact that I'm still in my pajamas training my dog.
So I had a subscription Facebook group called Back to Boxes. And that was really because Powder, I trained her the same way that I train my other dogs, right? And Brava had this beautiful little passive alert. Next thing I know, I've got this half sister who all of a sudden she's like, whoa, I'm very physical. And I had a container behavior issue. And so I decided to retrain her container behavior, right? So I had one of those, it was a training group, right? And I just literally posted unedited videos of my training. And I talked a little bit about it, but it was just, this is the video of the training. And
It's
sometimes
hard.
it went really well. And sometimes it was like, whoa, we need to take a few steps back. And what's interesting though, we had a few of those where I'm like, wow, that container went about 15 feet. Like, that's just not cool. So I kept saying, she would have a very, very short career as an explosive detection dog. like it's a single event, So anyway, but boom,
sorry.
Pow. Those are Powder, right? Pow.
Yeah. That's where I went in my brain. I'm like, oh, and you called her Powder.
I know. Well, it's short for gunpowder that I should have known. So, however, fast forward to now, her alerts are stinking gorgeous, right? So if I'm putting out a video now, I'm probably going to be showing that, because social media also, if you put all your crap out there,
they'll eat you alive.
Yeah, they compare that to people's edited stuff. And then they're like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. I'm like, well, no, they're just not showing everything.
Yes, they're not showing you the ugly part, the warts.
They're not showing you the ugly part. So I can show you the ugly part, and they're going to be like, well, you're not a very good trainer because your stuff isn't perfect.
That's not training, that's showing off.
Right, exactly. But that's what happens.
Now, in all fairness too, Robin, when you say that it's your marketing video, I'm in both groups, and you're just taking the part out of it that doesn't have all of the extras. It doesn't have all the setup. It doesn't have all of the stuff after. It's just the part of, here's the successful part of the rep. It's not like you're cutting out this atrocious part where it's,
people don't want to watch
terrible training.
Well, and to be,
I just wanted to make sure,
that
was clear.
Terrible training, right?
It's sometimes just the extra stuff that you don't want to necessarily
you don't
watch
want
all
to
of.
see me, play with the puppy for 30 seconds and, run around and set stuff up, or the fact that, people's attention span is literally like a minute.
Yeah.
And so, yes,
so it's really just you're taking out a snippet to be able to show just a moment of, this is what we're doing.
Out of the 25 repetitions or 25 trials that I did today, here were the 3 best.
You're showing the awesome possum moment.
Yes, the awesome possum moment. That's exactly right.
But I think it's also important to know that in real training, dogs make mistakes.
Yes.
And that is
we do
what gets showed. Yeah, that's not what gets shown on normal social media, right?
Correct.
It's the, if I'm retraining an alert behavior, when my dog picks her foot up and starts to use her foot, right?
Yes.
That's the mistake that the dog makes, but then the dog learns from it. Because I think, just because then you adjust your training, right? You adjust your training to help the dog to understand the criteria and to receive reinforcement. But
I believe that this summer, at Robin's Home for Wayward Dog Trainers, at some point, I don't know if Stacy, you were here, Crystal was here, because Crystal spent the entire summer here. But somewhere along the way, Crystal said, "Thank you for the information." And that has actually become a new aha thing for me, because when I can look at something that I have set up and my dog, typically it happens when it crashes and burns and there's flames flying everywhere. I usually, instead of it turning into a value judgment, I actually look at my dog and say, well, thank you for that piece of information, because I now know the 5 things I have to go work on in order to help you be successful the next time we come across this thing.
Yeah.
And that whole thank you for the information removed a lot of value judgment.
Yep.
That went along with my dog really sucked at that problem.
Yeah. And there's another one you can use. My friend Jess, what she's been using with her Doberman Fizz, they're doing agility, and she said she was reading a blog, I believe, and that you really can't have mistakes. It's just this moment that was too hard. And so instead of saying, she would say, oh dear, and that was her reset marker. And so then the dog would go, oh, and would sometimes displace and would go sniff and would shut down. And she said, all I've done is I've changed it to, that's hard. And it's more of this recognition of no one, there's no feelings, there's nothing. That was hard. And then that gives her thing of, okay, now we're going to do a nose touch to my hand. And then we're going to do a spin. And now we're going to reset. Yeah. So it just means that was hard. They come in, do the nose touch, reset. And it's just like obedience. It's the same idea, but it's that mind shift of that was just hard for the dog for whatever reason. And then it's not ownership completely on the dog or ownership completely on the trainer, but it's just, again, information.
It's a point to evaluate, right? So it's a point to just say, hey, what happened there? And I think you're right. It's not about the judgment. It's not about like, oh, the dog's being disobedient. No, that's not what it is, right? Or the hide really sucked. Well, sometimes that's not the issue either. Sometimes there's other stuff. You just have to evaluate what happened. That's and if hard. You look at it from an outside perspective, right? You kind of look at it. You can adjust. It's just not.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just hard.
It's just hard.
Yeah.
You were talking about agility, and I'm kind of
and
like,
so I really love that she brought that to my attention today.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for me to think about Emily's tracking on how she's doing surface transitions. She's doing all of these things, and probably the practice that it's taken her to realize how to slice it so thin so that her lovely little border collie, who, little border collies are prey animals. We want to chase things, is all of a sudden like, I love tracking.
Way to bring us back, Robin. Way to bring us back.
Something else she said is about the people that we meet because of the sport in our dogs. And I think that came from talking about her border collie, and she was 11 years old with the German Shepherd at 4-H, and I really appreciated that comment. And to bring it back to my friend Jess, she's going through a difficult time. She's losing her absolutely most amazing Doberman that we all adore. He's like our OG in our club. And we're all just so heartbroken. But something she said that was so huge for me today, and kind of her grieving, was she was talking about how he's the foundation of so many parts of her life, of getting into this sport, of getting her job, of all of us meeting each other, of us forming our club, and all of this because of these amazing dogs. Yeah. And when Emily had said that, all of this is just coming and just bringing it all so much into perspective and kind of just bringing it home for me. So that was something else I wanted to mention.
Our hearts go out for her, because I think
oh yeah,
we've all experienced that, where we've got that.
Oh yeah.
Dog, and
yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
Well, we usually wrap these up. We should wrap this up. What are your takeaways?
Huge takeaways. My takeaway is, can I use these 2 words? The utter how methodical Emily has had to be to teach this type of systematic tracking, and how she has to think about, since she's going for a very stylistic, obedient style tracking, how she has had to, the technicality of slicing all of that back in, from everything from the stylistic head bobs to how he downs on an article to how the dog gets up and moves on. All of it. I am a technician at heart, and that makes my little heart sing and gives me all sorts of things to think about when I drive.
My takeaway is I am just inspired. Like listening to her, it was just inspiring. And even though I don't want to do necessarily footstep tracking, it really does make me want to track again and get one of my girls out there. So I just really felt inspired.
Who knows? Maybe I'll have a puppy that I do tracking with because I have time.
Yeah, love puppies.
I think we talked about it a lot, but that the training isn't always pretty. And when she said that, it really took me to that growth mindset. And her takeaway at the end was not to give up. And she said that maybe it's because it's not fun, but really she was just saying, try something different. And when she would talk about any time that there was a failure, she never said failure. And she basically just said that it's mistakes and they're helping her learn. And I just really like how even if it's too hard, she wouldn't say that. She would just say, it's just going to take some time. Or you would never hear her say, I can't. She would just say, I don't know how to do this yet. Everything about her in my eyes was growth mindset.
Yes.
And that was the big takeaway inspiration for me. And that she didn't start off saying, I want to be a national champion, but that's who she is. And I think it's because of that growth mindset. I really do. I think it's hand in hand.
And so she did it with a border collie.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Her. I'm so thankful she spent the time with us. And
I am too.
Yeah.
And hopefully next year we can get her back after she does a whole nother round of really cool competition stuff to maybe talk about that growth mindset thing.
Well, she just trialed and she's doing really well. And she has a few more. She's going to be highly competitive here, getting back hopefully on the national team, possibly world team, depending on how these next few trials go. And we might be able to host her here in Missouri
that would be
here in November, possibly. So if that happens, get ready for it. We're going to be like pushing it out everywhere because
that would be awesome.
Great to learn from her. Yeah.
Yes.
It'd be awesome possum, right?
It would be awesome possum. So thank you everybody for tuning in for this wrap up for our discussion with Emily Lawrence. I hope everybody is enjoying this particular format and make sure to check out our website and keep updated on our Facebook page for some of the freebies that we're going to start giving out through that particular format.
And check out all of Emily's stuff because she's got lots of classes out there that you can learn from her. So if you're inspired like we are, join her Bigfoot group on Facebook. Check out the show notes and go to Facebook to learn about it from us.
Right. And her website's under construction, but it should be up soon. Thank you, and we'll talk at you next time.
Canine Detection Collaborative! We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to k9detectioncollaborative.com. That's K9detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.